Welcome to Dear Future, where we chat with guests at the intersection of art and technology. Today's guest is Caleb Ward. Caleb is a storyteller, educator, and community builder based here in Los Angeles, and the co-founder and CEO of Curious Refuge, the one, the only, first global community dedicated to AI storytelling and filmmaking. Before the current wave of generative tools, Caleb spent many years teaching filmmakers, designers, and VFX artists how to master new creative technologies. In 2023, he became widely known when a series of experimental AI trailers, like the now famous Wes Anderson-style Star Wars trailer, went viral and sparked a global conversation about what AI might mean for filmmaking. That moment eventually grew into Curious Refuge, which has since trained thousands of filmmakers and creatives across more than 100 countries, helping artists explore new tools while keeping human storytellers at the center.
This idea that everything's been done before can be challenged.
I've been dreaming of a computer like this my whole life.
It really made me think more about how our brains work.
It's not coming from anywhere else. It's only coming from us.
Dear Future. Welcome, Caleb. I can't wait to chat.
Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be here.
It's also been a while since I last saw you. We met about over 2 years ago.
No, not only did we meet over 2 years ago, we met at our very first public speaking event. And I was nervous as heck sitting in that green room. I had no idea what was happening because this was literally a week or 2 weeks after some of those early experiments. And you were one of the first, if not the very first artist I ever met who was exploring AI and storytelling and putting them all together. And you had some really cool experiments that were, again, very early and ahead of their time. And that was a really cool incubator for this connection that we've had with artists regarding AI and the technology. And you were just one of the first people we ever met in this space. So really cool meeting you all the way back then. And we don't see each other enough.
I know. It also feels like, when you're the crotchety old people in the room where you're like, way back in my day, it was so hard to be early in AI. Everyone looked at us like we were strange. And now it's like everyone's into AI. There's a whole community behind it. But there was just a few of us at the very beginning.
There were a few of us, and it's because there wasn't even the language that we have today. Now we've throw away terms like AI filmmaking or AI gaming and stuff like that. In those days, the term AI filmmaking was not popular. And the reason why I know is because I was I think AI filmmaking should be a thing. So we're going to make the community, and I'm going to make a course called AI filmmaking. And because that's not a word yet, and I think it will be a word one day. And now it's just it's super popular. It's most of the headlines you read about in the space have some sort of AI filmmaking or AI gaming connected to it. And so it's only been a few years, but it does seem like it's been a while.
Yeah. And now you're the Campbell soup of AI film education. So, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Moving back a little bit, I wanna come to what your days look like now.
Yeah.
And I just want you to give me a slice of what does your daily life look like?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to zoom us way back to the early days. So first, what does your day look like now?
What does my day look like now? So we at Curious Refuge have to be very specific about the way in which we approach our days because AI constantly changes. There are a lot of demands from the community, in a positive way, just things and opportunities that we get to do and ways in which we get to show up. And so I specifically set up my schedule from 9 a.m. to noon is content recording. And so I meet with our team at 9 a.m. every single day. We talk about new changes, new workflows. I create content where I share those updates and those workflows and those experiments from our team. And from after lunch to the rest of the day, I'm in CEO mode, do everything from updating curriculum to meeting with tool manufacturers and institutions, hopping on podcasts. And so without that very specific schedule, it would be very hard to serve the community the way we do. And I've had to learn that over time. And so that's kind of what my day looks like. It's a lot of balancing tool updates and changes that happen to the creative workflow with R&D, figuring out what is real versus not real, because every news piece that you see or Twitter post says that this AI tool or this new workflow is literally the best thing that ever existed and it's changing everything. And then you test out the tool or the workflow and you're like, oh wait, no, there's actually a lot of problems with this at the professional level and we would not recommend this to our community. And so
this just changed filmmaking forever.
Exactly. And it's so easy and hyperbolic to do that type of marketing. And I don't even blame people for doing it.
If I wanted
clickbaiting. if I needed maximum clicks to my platform, especially if it was an emerging one, like it makes sense that people would do that. It's just I don't like doing that, and it feels cheap, and it creates just a lot of wasted time of people testing out tools or workflows or whatever that end up being dead ends. And so we have a team that tests that stuff out, and I'm in the weeds doing that as well, and it's really fun. Like even just like after doing this for 2.5, almost 3 years specifically in the AI space, it's still deeply fun. And just before I came over here, I just got done recording a video all about Nano Banana 2, comparing it against the previous version and talking about pros and cons. And it gives me energy. Like it's just really fun and exciting. So yeah, that's what our day is spent. And Shelby, who's my wife, she's the co-founder of Curious Refuge. She spends her day doing operations for the company and just helping to run the ship, because we have like 20 team members now. And then we're also a part of a larger studio called Promise, who's working on narrative storytelling. And then there's an offshoot of that called Genco that does paid client work. And so our small little team is a very large team now. And so it's just quite the operation.
And you're new parents.
And we're new parents. Yeah. We have a 9-month-old.
Oh my God.
And it was a lot to have a baby in the midst of, the AI rocket ship that it's been over the last year. But if anything, I feel like it's been stabilizing to have a baby. We were just chatting about it before we started recording. It bakes in consistent schedule into your life, which I think was very important. And so I'm hopping on airplanes less now, but I'm not complaining about it, because I think it's a really good thing to be home, to be with the baby, and to honestly just my favorite thing to do is just be in the studio making content for the community on a day in and day out basis. And so it's been good to have like that just sense of grounding at home with the family and then with work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Work-life balance.
Yeah, it feels like we have that, at least to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's hard to do when you're sharing a life with someone who you're also building a company with. So it's a testament also to your relationship and your ability to navigate the chaos of this time together. And right now, I think what would be nice is to zoom way, 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 way back, because this work that you're doing, the description that you have of your day is a novel job. I would say I'd be hard pressed to give this sort of job description to someone just a few years ago, and they would be like, that's real? No way. So I would love to hear a little bit about your first experiences, your first memories of technology, using technology, experimenting with technology in your youth.
Okay. So my family, we had, at least in the home, the first real, we'll say computer technology would be, I think it was a Windows 95 machine. At least I remember the operating system. I don't know if that was the year 1995. And I remember playing, was it Minesweeper was the game on 95? And I think 98 had the pinball game that was so fun, by the way.
Way too much fun. Way too many hours staring at that tiny ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally. Would spend way too much time playing that game. And then in my school, I remember we had some educational games, like the one with the dog. You remember this Jumpstart?
Yeah. Oh my God. And then there was also a typing game.
Uh-huh.
Where you could learn how to type.
Was it rocket themed or something like that?
Yeah.
So all of those games. So
yeah.
I was the first generation that kind of got a gamified technology experience in school, which I loved. And I also remember in 6th grade, we had an assignment to there's early PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Create a PowerPoint about your experience at school. And
it's the early Pechacucha.
Yeah, it was something with the city wanted to ask. I don't know if it was a data gathering thing, but they only asked a few students. For whatever reason, they asked me to be a part of it.
Mine the kids for their knowledge.
Exactly. What's life like for
early data
for
mining
kids?
For children?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what this exercise was. And I think they were expecting us to put together a PowerPoint presentation, but no, I put together an interactive game. In PowerPoint, you can hyperlink elements if you click on them. So I had 200 slides that I by hand went and created my homeroom at school, the gym class, and you could click and see my report card. And it was an interactive journey in PowerPoint in the 1998 version or whatever it was. And I think I always just loved that intersection of art and creativity and what is the limit that we can push this creative technology to.
I'm just imagining these agents who got this 200 slide PowerPoint from a kid and they're like, what are you doing?
Exactly. How did the floppy disk even have enough space to hold all this PowerPoint presentation with all these images? And the other thing was, because it was this special little experiment, if I got my homework done in the other classes, I could go to the computer lab and work on it. So I was just flying through it and probably failing those other classes. So I could just get right to the computer lab. So I'd always just kind of been in love with
always a nerd.
Technology. Oh my God. It's, yeah, for sure.
That's great. And then when did that intersect with with creativity and education? Like, at what point were you like, I want to teach this stuff to other people?
So I think the seeds of that was already there, like with some of the early stuff when I was a kid. But so in my house, we didn't have cable growing up. We only had PBS. And so like Bill Nye,
The science guy.
the science guy, Mr. Rogers, and Arthur, like education was just entertainment. Like there was no separation of that. And
there was a show called Out of the Box. Do you remember this one?
Yeah, I remember Out of the Box.
Yeah.
I could sing that theme song today. It was always like education was always something that I was like deeply infatuated with, along with art and creativity. And through high school, I was learning like video production and motion design. And there was resources like Andrew Kramer with Video Copilot or Film Riot that was like starting to pop up. Very early like influencer educator spaces. And I loved the process of learning just as much as the creative outcome.
Yeah.
And I loved whenever I could share that information with other people. And so for me, I get just as much value out of sharing how we got to an end goal than just the end goal itself. Like both of those things are equally exciting to me. And so it's funny because a lot of people, whenever we share what we do at Curious Refuge, we have a school, like we train people. A lot of people are like, yeah, you do that, but like, what are you hoping to do eventually? And I'm like, no, this is what I want to be doing eventually. It's exactly what I want to be doing, and I love it. I wish I could do a little bit more creativity on a day-to-day basis, just working on my own personal projects, but being a new dad and running a company is like totally enough.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's fascinating that you were teaching people how to use tools out of your dorm room, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. So in college, literally my first week of college, I went in, we had a TV station that was like kind of an extracurricular thing. And I was like, would love to like, volunteer here. And they're like, what do you know? And I'm like, well, I know Photoshop and After Effects. And like, that was pretty unique for like a freshman in college to like know that stuff. And so they're like, oh, you should come in and teach our senior class. So they had a practicum class, like teach them how to use these tools. And I called it Tutorial Tuesday. And we had like open hours on Tuesday and people could come ask their questions, which is very similar to office hours, which is what we do at Curious Refuge. And so I don't know, we've kind of always done this.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just always been like really exciting for me and, really rewarding. So
I love it. Yeah. I can see the Mr. Rogers in you.
It's the gray hair.
No, it's the friendly demeanor.
Thank you.
Come on over, learn some AI.
Thank you. I should have changed my shoes at the beginning of this, but on the comfy house slippers.
Well, I guess I'm curious, how did Curious Refuge come about? How did you say like, okay, this is something I'm doing here. Now I want to make a business out of it. What was that transition like?
So Curious Refuge got its start before we were an AI school. So Shelby and I, before Curious Refuge, we were helping to run a company called Rebelway. It was like an online visual effects school teaching like Houdini, Nuke, Unreal Engine. And, that was fun, but it wasn't our company. Like we just had a hand in running it. And in fact, we were digital nomads at that time, which was kind of cool, like being able to like work full time and then also travel full time. And so that offered us a lot of learning and like how to run a community, how to go about the process of balancing like the administrative side with the creative, with the content. And at the same time, we were like, we had creative stuff that we wanted to put out into the world. Like when 360 video was popping up, we lived in Dallas at the time and we were like, wait, if you can shoot 360 plates, the Zapruder film, which the JFK assassination film, we're like, if you could comp that onto a 360 plate, you could in VR kind of be there for the experience, which frankly is a little dark, but also from a historical perspective, kind of interesting that you can like transport yourself into that space. And so we put that together, put it online, and it went viral in like the early days of like 360 stuff. And we like did all sorts of other videos that were like After Effects tutorials and Notion tips because we were just like big into like second brain stuff.
Man, I love Notion.
You love Notion?
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with Notion. I might as well be like a poster child. It's actually really bad, but now my friend works at Notion, so I'm like fangirling over her all the time. But yeah, big fan.
I love Notion. Like honestly, I feel like my brain was not fully organized.
Yes.
Until I got Notion.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
And now that I use it, I literally don't know how I would not use it. Like it taught me the relationship between databases and project management and all of this stuff. That sounds boring, but like when you're in Notion, it feels like a game and it's
totally.
like,
and like everything from like, oh, can I like build relationality between these elements and toggles? My God, yes. If I could be reincarnated as anything, it would be as a Notion database, which I'm sure their marketing team will love. This is not sponsored by Notion.
Yeah, not sponsored. Never have been sponsored by Notion.
But also hire me. Just kidding.
Yeah, Exactly. Dude, I love Notion. I've been journaling personally in Notion for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
I put all of my goals and track them. And I love like they have AI features now where you can like ask questions. And so you're like, what reoccurring things pop up in my journaling that like, and it just like brings it to the, which is very helpful and also scary at the same time.
You're like, please don't ask about my mother.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So great. So you were doing these tutorials.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And just kind of having fun putting stuff out just as we thought, it'd be fun. Like we put together like a Canva tips thing, which like Canva, I really like Canva. I think it's like a really efficient creative tool. And it still is like one of our most popular videos, like more popular than the AI videos we put out, which is funny.
You never know what's going to hit.
You never know. Dude,
Yeah.
YouTube, you never know. Like literally you can put your heart and soul into a video, goes nowhere, and then put together something quickly and it just like takes off.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
YouTube is cruel.
Savage.
Stares off into space.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were doing a lot of like just creative experiments, putting stuff out on the side. And frankly, I was getting like a little tired of that YouTube hustle. Like, oh, you put your heart and soul into something and it doesn't really go anywhere. And I was like, I don't know if like the side thing is working. Like, and Shelby was like, just do something for fun. Don't have like a desire for it to take off. Just do something that you think is fun. And it was like March of 2023, I think, or 22. No, it's 23. Yeah, like Midjourney 3 or
Yes.
something like that. So I'd already been playing around with like AI tools up to that point.
Yeah.
It was falling on deaf ears in my community. Like I would be like, oh my God, guys, you can prompt a picture of a chihuahua riding a train. This is amazing. And everyone's like, okay, like whatever.
Oh, look at the chihuahua.
Yeah. But guys, it's not about this. It's about what's going to be. And so I was playing around with these tools and we saw some of like the viral like Harry Potter Balenciaga stuff that was like going around. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Like for a meme, but like, can this like convey a film concept? Because if it could convey a film concept, that has huge implications for the future of storytelling because it's not about where the technology is today. It's about where it's going to be.
Totally.
And if you can use an AI system to create a story that resonates with an audience, that is going to fundamentally change our storytelling, our craft, even our human relationship with stories to a certain extent, not to be too hyperbolic about like what the experiment was. And so that process, I was like, well, let's see if we could do like Wes Anderson does Star Wars thing, not because I'm like, I want to rip off Wes Anderson or Star Wars, but it's literally just an experiment. Like the same way that if you read a white paper, they typically use like episodes of Friends to demonstrate it. And so we put that together. I went to bed. It had 500 views. It was like a Friday. I woke up. It was like 500,000 views. It was going viral. And by Sunday, I was playing Mario Kart with my friends and a Hollywood Reporter article dropped that was like, what does Star Wars, Wes Anderson mean for the future of filmmaking and creativity and all this stuff? And pretty immediately, it was like every news outlet was like wanting to do interviews, wanting to get our opinion on the future of storytelling, what AI means for Hollywood.
Cut to you eating cereal in your living
Yeah.
room.
Playing Mario Kart, like pause guys. I have to like see what the Hollywood Reporter is saying about me. And it was a funny thing because like, obviously it's not like we're connected with a studio at this time. Like we're only connected with a VFX school that is our full-time job, has nothing to do with AI stuff. And it was like immediately people were like, what does this mean for the future of storytelling at the human level? What does this mean with the strikes that are going on? Like, which like in the early days of the strikes, it was only really about residuals. And like AI got shoehorned into that because it like very quickly progressed in some small part because of like the stuff that we were unintentionally like trying to experiment with. And so
But it wasn't the recent writer's strike. It was the strike before that.
the 2022 or 23,
Maybe it was
whatever that
23.
year.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
23, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it started in May.
Yeah.
And our early stuff went live in like late April, and it just so happened to get shoehorned into that larger conversation.
It also was at the same time where there was a lot of, I remember, like, because the fall before DALL-E 2 came out and Runway started their AI tools, like
Yes.
creative tools weekly thing.
Mhm.
I remember that happened the October before. Stability AI had just gotten all of this funding. And this was like sort of the 3 to 6 months afterwards when there was this like bubbling up of financing, of energy, of what does this mean for Hollywood. ChatGPT had come out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was really just like the confluence of all like the language models, the image models, and some of those early video tools coming together. And so I think it was specific timing that was a little early, but it's still probably pretty ideal for us, like wanting to grow the community. And so like all of these news organizations are reaching out to us. And there was a sense that there needed to be a place for people to have a pragmatic and safe place to learn these tools and what it means for them in their craft and the future of storytelling. Because my hope would be that people would see these tools and they would see creative potential that they could unlock for themselves and that it would be optional. If you want to use the tool, cool. If you don't want to, you totally don't have to. But there's new creative possibilities because of this tool. And so we wanted to create a safe place for people that's not like disruption based. It's just like screw Hollywood or screw the old way of doing things. Like that's not our heart, and that's not like the heart of Curious Refuge, nor what I believe to be the reality of actual storytelling.
Yeah.
And so we just felt like it was important to create that community. Otherwise, it would be a lot of the Twitter posts that we were talking about. This changes everything, and everything is just constant disruption.
It's so over. We're so back.
Exactly. So yeah, we founded the community in those early days. It was frankly an overnight success. Like it was just kind of one of these things that just instantly caught fire. It's the timing of everything. And now we've been at it for almost 3 years. We were acquired by a startup studio called Promise a year ago, almost to the day. And that's been a great experience. It was founded by one of my good friends, Dave Clark. And it's been a journey. Like it's like AI constantly changes. It continues to be something that is very important to get right at every level, but especially in the storytelling space. And we just really want to give people a home that they can go to learn these things, and a safe refuge. Like it's really in the name. It's like curiosity and refuge to not only learn the tools, but also increasingly find an opportunity in the industry to have paid opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting too in this world where it feels like so often you land in this strange new world that is moving so quickly. You have no idea which direction to go. And it's really hard to understand where even to get started. And what I've heard from a lot of people, and sort of continues to be like the brand reputation, is sort of like the friendly neighborhood tech Sherpa that will help you sort of orient to storytelling. And also for folks who might not have traditional storytelling, filmmaking backgrounds, you to actually take them through like a filmmaking 101 and help them understand like a larger cinematic landscape. And so then you're teaching the tools against the backdrop of cinematic storytelling.
Absolutely.
And I guess for you, I'd love to know a little bit more about how you think about pedagogy, because you're kind of inventing a lot of this curriculum. You're working with institutions, you're working with different creative partners who have a way that they have done things forever. And they have opinions, they have strong opinions about how things should be done, how things should be taught. And I'm very curious, how do you approach pedagogy just in your own programs?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you work with partners that have opinions?
Yes. So the first thing I just want to like clarify, I went to public school. I don't know what the word pedagogy even means, but I will tell you how we approach our curriculum.
Education.
Okay, great.
It's like education design. It's like, how do you think about the teaching of things?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
here's our approach to teaching our curriculum. So from the outset, when people join our program, I think a lot of the motivation sometimes is like, I want to learn the tools. And that's fine. Like we'll teach you tools, but it's not the tools that will get you to create something that is resonant with an audience, that's deeply intrinsically meaningful, that you're ultimately really proud of. It's storytelling. It's taking something from your heart and your head and turning it into something that, you share with other people. And that is a system and a process and an educational journey that is not new. Like filmmaking and storytelling, like these are very old concepts. Filmmaking's been around for, over 100 years at this point. And so in our courses, especially in the early modules, it really is kind of a film 101 course. And a lot of people, when they joined, were like, this was like a really nice refresher into like the filmmaking process, because, we get into everything like character development and conflict and how different shots create montage, which creates meaning. And really just a lot of those core concepts that if you go to a very expensive film school, they're going to teach you during your freshman and sophomore year, And so we have to get people up to speed on those core concepts and then introduce the tools and the workflow. And when it comes to the workflow, I think there's kind of like two different value propositions with AI. The first is, here's the existing creative, we'll call it filmmaking workflow. And here's how AI can kind of assist at each step of the process, whether it's, ideating pieces of dialogue for your character to specific attributes of the set design, like just every aspect of the process can be supplemented or assisted with some sort of AI tool or process. And then there's kind of a new workflow that is different than the filmmaking process that we also teach. And so you kind of need to know both. And a lot of the studio partners, I would say, are more interested in that first, example, like how can AI assist our current workflows and processes? There's not been a single studio or institution that I've talked to that's like, how can we replace creative people in this process? Like that's not the case. It's usually, how can we iterate and get to an even better end goal because of these tools and tell a better, more compelling story in light of the changes to the technology. And I have found that the majority of people, especially if they're leaning in, like they want to learn, like they're not trying to like bury their feet in the sand and say like, we've always done it this way and we are completely not responsive to like the tools and the technology. Like I've seen personally like people excited, but I'm I'm sure there's some folks that are like, more apprehensive, but generally when we step in, like they're like excited.
That's great.
Yeah.
I guess I'm also curious, like in teaching these tools to different audiences, have you noticed anything about I wouldn't even say the receptivity, but the things that people latch onto if they come from different audiences?
Yes. And I think a lot of it has to do with the adoption curve that we've seen over the last few years. Like early days, the audience was much more of like the early adopter tech explorer. They're people that, I don't know, like are into coding a little bit already.
Like
and
techie spelunkers.
Techie, yeah, exactly. They're us. You know what I mean? Like, and so they're people that were really early, that were super motivated, but there were a lot of technical hurdles even in those early days to pulling this off. And so they're looking for a curriculum, a flow in which they could enter into the AI tool workflow and have a very clear way of approaching the end goal, which is in our filmmaking course specifically, you make a film. Like your final assignment, turn in a film, right? And so that was the early days. It was a lot of people who were in the creative space, but tech-minded. And so it still was people that were part of the unions, directors, producers, just people who are, a part of the larger storytelling network, in addition to like the just very tech-minded people. Now, I think the majority of people that come through Curious Refuge are creative professionals, but they are not necessarily early adopters. They're just interested in how these technologies are going to change their career. And so we ran a recent survey, and it's like 85% of people in our ecosystem consider themselves a creative professional, like they're doing creativity at some level professionally. I think it's like 7% are students, and remaining few are like hobbyists, which is still awesome. That like, you want to make films for your hobby, like great, that's cool. And so, we really try to continue to like service and try to create training that can help people in their day-to-day work and their actual paying jobs, in addition to just like inspiring them to like have some sort of creative side project at the same time. And I feel like almost everybody, they're approaching the tools in two different ways. There's like, how can I do my current job well and like just do a great job? And then how can I do my side project that I'm also very deeply passionate about and never have enough time to work on?
Yeah.
And so I think most people have both outcomes in mind whenever they're approaching these tools.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You also, you've taught a lot of people. What is it, like 10,000 plus people now?
15,000, 10 or 15,000.
That's
Not to mention
crazy.
all of the like public facing stuff, which is like millions. Yeah.
Right. But just like in terms of like people who have gone through your programs, 10 to 15,000 people. And
Yeah.
then not to mention all the YouTube tutorials and all
Sure.
the things that people have watched. That's like really amazing.
Thanks,
And you've probably learned a lot about yourself and about where these tools are going. You've been able to sort of see where the hype is and where things are actually exciting. And so from that vantage point, I'm curious for you, what is the most exciting area of innovation in the field? Is it in model development? Is it certain products that you're seeing? Is it actually in communities or institutions doing interesting things? I'm just very curious, like what for you have you seen recently that has been like, oh, that's going to be really exciting, or the development that's there is really like frothy?
Yeah. So I think that going back the last couple of years, I think the most exciting things were like the developments in the image models, I think in the early days. Then the video models got really interesting with Runway 3.
Yeah.
2, the first one that did image to video, like that became very interesting. We've seen iterative improvements with Sora, with most recently Seed Dance, and like that's interesting, especially just from like the fact that it even exists. Like that's pretty wild. But I am really excited and interested in interactive and hyper localized experiences using AI tools, like everything from generative AI gaming to like Shelby was showing me yesterday on the Zara app, the clothing brand. You can upload a picture of yourself and you can like do virtual try-ons.
Virtual try-ons.
Directly inside of their tool. And I think that's really just an early indicator of the deep personalization that's going to be coming down the pipeline as world models continue to progress over the next couple of years. And that's why, companies like OpenAI and Google and companies that have larger amounts of data that they can connect together, I think are going to create some pretty interesting things, and then also have APIs that connect with other people's dreams and visions as well to make some interesting personalized entertainment experiences.
Yeah.
And I think that can be all sorts of different things. I don't know. I think especially in the filmmaking space, there's almost this perception of like, I want to sit down at my couch and I want to say, make a movie about me. And I'm like, it's a heist thing. And I don't think that it's that interesting because you can already do that with music, right? Like you can go to Suno, I can make a song about my dog Chester, and it's going to sound pretty good and like almost like somebody recorded it. And that's only interesting like the very first time I do it. And then you realize, oh wait, storytelling and music and creativity is only interesting if it's a part of a larger human connected experience. And when that's just completely in isolation, that's not so fun. That includes everything from the creation of your film all the way to the distribution and consumption of it. And so I think if you hone in too heavily on just make it a one-to-one experience and not like something that's connected to something larger, then it's starting to miss out. And so I think there are AI tools that can like spread its wings, that can branch things, make it hyper specific, and then also connect that to a larger ecosystem at the same time. And I think that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, the connectors.
Sure.
Okay, I have two more things that I'm going to ask you. One is, how do you feel about node-based workflows?
Yeah, node-based. So you got Weavy, Flora Fauna, you got free pick spaces, of course, Comfy UI, which is, the scary final boss for a lot of people who are getting into the space.
Or Touch Designer now.
Touch Designer, you have Adobe demoed at Max that they're going to have node-based. So very clearly, the tool manufacturers see the writing on the wall with nodes. And nodes are not new. I'm sure a lot of people listening to the podcast or watching have some experience with nodes or at least heard about nodes inside of tools like Nuke, for example. Or
DaVinci Resolve.
DaVinci Resolve. So nodes are interesting because it creates procedural workflows that can be replicated, and they're really good for getting to an end goal that needs to be somewhat similar, but iterative again and again. And the reason why that's important, I think, is if you're working in a collaborative environment, if you're working on, let's say, a film that has a specific style or a specific process that needs to happen again and again and again, nodes are very interesting. And so I do think nodes are good, but not at the expense of what I would say is a flow state application experience, because I think you need the creative exploration in the beginning before you create your process. You don't want to create your process too soon because I think you want to see what is creatively possible. And then you can go in, define, if you need a node workflow. We do office hours a lot at Curious Refuge, like each week. They're completely free and we like answer questions to the community. And a lot of people will hop in and say, I started playing around with Weavy or I started using free pick spaces. And I realized it's just a little too much for like what I needed on a day-to-day basis. But that being said, a lot of studios, a lot of institutions find a lot of value in them, especially if you work at an ad agency and you need 1,000 iterations of the exact same marketing collateral. So I think that there is a lot of value there. I think that it's very interesting, and I think that there is a time and place for it.
That's great. Okay, personal curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
What is your ideal workflow in a few words right now? Like the
Right now.
products and the models that you're using to like get your ideas out, make the thing. What's your workflow?
So right now I would use an aggregator because you can bring everything together. Aggregators tend to be faster. You can do iteration faster. So if you go to Google Flow or Gemini, for example, if you want to use Nano Banana or Google Veo, there's a certain amount of generations that you're going to be able to do. But with AI, just like with like a filmmaking experience, it's about shots and it's about iteration to get exactly what you're looking for. So you need to have an aggregator. So FreePick's my current favorite aggregator. A lot of the aggregators on the market have questionable marketing practices and things that I won't get into details on, but I like FreePick a lot. And I actually was chatting with their team this last week. Have never been sponsored by any of these companies, but they're also just thinking about things at a higher level that I think is helpful. So I would say having FreePick as an aggregator that you're utilizing to help you with image generation, you can pick different video models all on the platform, and then having one unlimited plan in a video tool like Google Flow, like the Ultra plan with Google Flow. You can get unlimited fast generations. Runway has an unlimited plan. The problem is if you don't have an unlimited plan with some of these tools, you're going to run out of credits too quickly. And if you want to make a film, let's say it's 2 minutes long, the average shot is 2.5 seconds. Yeah, 10 shots per clip. And you start doing the math. People on this call are like yelling at me.
A beautiful mind.
Exactly. But like, let's just say it's like 3,000 clips or something like that. Most of these subscriptions that you're going to get to these video models don't offer 3,000 clips a month. And so you're going to have to pay for credit packs, and that's going to get crazy expensive. So we did a video recently on aggregators where we compared the price of using different tools to make a single film. And you had tools like Adobe, it was going to cost you like $550 to make a film. Tools like FreePick were going to be like $300. But then if you do the hybrid approach where you have free pick for images and then select video models and then Google VO, I think you could get it down to like $200, which was, I think, the cheapest way that you could get it there.
Yeah.
That would be reasonable.
That's great. Okay,
Yeah.
so you do aggregator to model, and then
Let's backtrack. So I'm just talking about the creative. Of course, everything starts with like a good story. You could go to a language model to help with that experience. They're going to be pretty derivative and probably not that interesting. And frankly, I think you're going to create something better if it's like coming from your own experience. Like it's going to be like generic and boring. I did this experiment. I went to language models and I said, create 10 ideas for films that have never existed before. So hypothetically, it should be a film that has never existed. And I did this with ChatGPT, with Google Gemini, and Claude. Every single one of those models had the idea of this film called The Last Librarian, about this librarian defending the last one, across the board. So they're not that creative like on their own. There are iterative ways that you can extrapolate creativity from them, but you have to be like coming to them with like a story. And frankly, your life is really interesting. So like pull from your experiences to create a cool story. So language model can be helpful, but you're going to need to create a script, a shot list, like normal film stuff. You could put together a pitch deck if you want to like make something bigger. And then you can drop those things in a timeline. I recommend doing an audio track first, just to help with timing, to make sure you have enough shots. Then you can get into the process of animating them in a video tool like we talked about, Google VO, Kling, Dance is interesting. We have an AI video rating scale over at Curious Refuge where we test them against ground truth videos and rate them basically out of 10. 10 out of 10 would be this video model is literally indistinguishable. No video models, including Seed Dance, are that. So like, don't let the hype fool you. Shooting on a live action camera will give you better results still. And basically, after you have videos animated, you may need to solve some problems with lip syncing, for example. You may need to go back and redo your shots because AI just struggles in some cases. And a lot of times you don't know what those problems are going to be until you literally get into the creative and start messing around, and you're going to edit it together in an editing application. Could be Resolve, could be Premiere, doesn't really matter. And it is very important to not forget about sound design. A lot of people forget about sound design. It's 50% of the film process, and I think it's more connected to the emotions your audience feel than the visuals. And so, working with a really good, talented sound designer, or at least honing in on that experience and spending a significant amount of time getting it where you want it to be is super important. And so don't skip over that process. And the rest is editing, right? And, iterative process. And what's really cool is you can be in the edit and be like, you know what? I need a different shot. And you can just go make that shot. So that's kind of a cool thing. And, it's not fast. The perception's that it's fast. It's faster, but it's not quick, type in a prompt and get a film experience.
Yeah.
Like it takes taste. And that's why the better filmmakers that you see in the generative AI space usually have a background in storytelling, or at least some sort of creative adjacent industry that like has allowed them to step into this process and into this workflow and thrive.
Totally. Makes sense. I mean, it's like anyone who is a craftsperson with a background, with a history, with a relationship to the work, then it's like, oh, this is just tacking on to an already storied history of their relationship to the work.
Yeah.
And I have one final question to close us out. If I were to say, dear future blank, how would you finish that sentence?
Dear future, I am grateful that you were not as scary as what everyone made you out to be. You never have been as scary as what everyone made you out to be, and you continue to not be that scary. No matter how incentivized the news is to make you as scary as possible, it's great to be here. I'm glad that food scarcity is less than it is today. I'm glad that a lot of the problems that we deal with are happening, but to a lesser extent. Thank you, future. It's great to be here.
Dear future, thanks for not being terrifying.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. Great way to end our time together. Thank you so much, Caleb. If you're interested in more about Curious Refuge, go to their website, curiousrefuge.com.
Curiousrefuge.com.
They have storytelling, tutorials, a lot of ways that you can get involved. There'll be social links, all of that. And if you're interested in learning more about Caleb, please go to his website.
Just Curious Refuge.
All right, Curious Refuge, you can learn more about him there. And congratulations on all of your success. We're really excited that you're doing what you're doing and can't wait to hear more.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that you're doing as well.
It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much for listening to Dear Future. This episode was recorded at Echo Bend, a beautiful creative space here in Los Angeles that supports artists, storytellers, and conversations like this one. A special thank you to the Echo Bend team for hosting us and helping make this recording possible. With that, please keep creating, stay curious, find refuge in your work and in your communities. We hope to see you very soon. With that, signing off, Dear Future.
Dear Future.